Hello, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome back to your sample diet of Scottish football with Salmon's Pizzeria. I'm your host, Manpreet Singh. I'm joined with Callum Blythe and Arran Hewitt to do a roundup of the Scottish Championship from the weekend just there. The best way to do it is just getting stuck right in it. So we were game week 5 there.
Yeah, I think so.
With every team now has picked up a win after the Fife Derby result with Dunfermline beating Raith. The other scores, Thistle and Ayr was 1 each. Livingston also beat Hamilton, and that's where we shall start. Callum, Livy Line, how would you say about your team's performance on Saturday and your opinion on it?
Shite. It was just genuinely, it was just awful. It's like, obviously covered this way more in depth on the Rovers podcast, but it was like first 15 minutes Dunfermline were all over us, and then like the red card happened, and at that point it was just sort of like, well, that's it, fucked. There's just no coming. The best we can hope for was a 0-0 draw. And going into half time, it did feel likely, because it's like somehow we got better after the red card. It's like we were able to like hold on. We started to get more convincing going into the game, and then it's like second half starts and you hear Lewis Vaughan's coming on, and it's like, that's Mr. Raith Rovers. That's a guy who gets you going. And then 5 minutes later, Uenotu takes a shot from outside the box. It's going right into that bottom right corner. Kevin Dabrowski has it all day, and it just bounces off of someone and goes into the bottom left. And it's just like, well, that's it. We're done. And from there, it was just a case of just, can we keep it close? But then there was a Rami with the coaching staff and the players. There was just bookings thrown everywhere. And then we changed the system a little bit. But then during like the minute after it happened, Wotherspoon got the ball, and it was, I have to say, it was a lovely finish, but it was just shambolic at the back, and it was just whatever I had to drink beforehand was very clearly not enough.
And the first loss against the Pals in 5. Am I correct in saying? Because
six, if you count the fact that, so it's like we won all 4 league games plus the Scottish Cup game. And then there was the League Cup game, which was a draw after 90 and then lost on penalties. So it's one of those where it's like, can you count it as a win or a loss? I mean, it is a penalty shootout in the League Cup group stages. But yeah, it's the first, after what was an exemplary record last season, to have it gone already is a bit, it's a shame. I was hoping to start the 10 in a row chance at full time, but no.
Because I did see on the Saturday morning on my way to Ayrshire, I thought old manager Ian Murray looking quite just as if he's just seen all his hard work just destroyed in front of his eyes. Obviously, I was quite surprised at the result. I'm not going to lie, but 10 men after in the first 25,
15th minute,
first 15, especially Ewan Murray. I think he's a really good player, but I feel there's a bomb scare in him. Like he's got that in him to make and then obviously I think 10 men for that long is. I think they're always gonna score. I don't, from my view or from when I was watching it, I think it was kind of just when did Dunfermline's go, not if, but it's a big deflection. Arran, did you watch the game yourself?
Yes, I did indeed.
Well, what would your thoughts be on it? I'm just going to do a wee roundup of this game, and then we'll talk about, because we've all watched it, and then we'll go into yourself, Arran, with the Airdrie one. So take that away after your views on the Dunfermline Raith.
Well, I think coming into it was two teams who haven't had the ideal starts to the season. Obviously, as you said there, Raith did have that shock managerial change. I certainly didn't see it coming. I'm not sure if many people saw it coming. But to be fair, I see a little bit where they're coming from. I do feel like Raith were probably not going forwards, maybe a bit sideways, maybe even a little bit backwards. But I have to say, I think the length of time it's taken to get in a permanent manager, and like obviously I don't know for certain, but I'm fairly certain he was not one of the first choice options. Obviously, there was a few managers they were interested in, but it just seems to have knocked them a bit because it's a really, really talented squad that Wraith have, especially if you look the kind of middle to front areas, as you were mentioning there. Players like Lewis Vaughan, Dylan Easton, Callum Smith, who are all fantastic. And then you're going against Dunfermline, who had been really, really struggling. I think there was a bit
Chris
of pressure
Kane
on
and
the
Craig
team.
Whiten as their front options.
It's just, I think, yeah. If you look at the two squads, for me, Wraith certainly have the stronger squad. But the red card did happen. That almost certainly had an impact on the result. But I just feel at Wraith something's not quite clicking yet. It's been the same as a few clubs, including Airdrie. To be honest, it's not been a great start for us. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting over the next few weeks, kind of how Wraith react to that, whether they'll start to look a bit better under the new manager. But on Dunfermline's side, there's no Dunfermline fan here to say it, but that is a very important result for them because they were struggling big time. They were losing a lot of games, struggling to score goals, and I think the clean sheet will do them a lot of good as well. But yeah, I still think that game probably came at a good time. Maybe got a bit fortunate with the red cards in Fairmont. But yes, for me, it's just two teams that really were struggling, and that the red card probably did make all the difference.
Can I just you said about the manager situation? Neil Collins was actually the first person who was offered a job, but he was down in England at the time. Like he wasn't working because he'd already been sacked by Barnsley, but he was living down there, and so it's like there was family reasons stopping him from coming up at the time, and then the second person was I forgot his name already, Neil Harvey or whatever the fuck it is, a Linfield manager, and then everything was agreed with that. And then it's like the next day he turned around and said, "Nah, I'm going to get myself a new deal at Linfield." He was pretty much seems like he was using it for leverage. And having seen the online talk from Linfield fans for their games since then, I think we've dodged a bullet with that. So Neil Collins, and we went back in for him. Just he got everything sorted out. So that's why it has taken so long. But yeah, you are right in saying it does seem like it's just not clicked yet, and it's like it probably doesn't. I mean, like Neil Collins, he's only been in a job for like 10, 11 days or something like that, not even 2 weeks. So we do play Hamilton next, so hopefully we can do something there. We'll come on to them later on, though. So, well, I imagine what Manpreet was going to say was about the surprise of the sacking on Ian Murray. Now, obviously, it's like from Aaron, you saw him as he was Airdrie, so we've both got experience of what it's like being under Ian Murray. And when Ian Murray left for us, how was the reaction when? How was it? What was it like when his at the end of his time at Airdrie? Because I believe it's like they just lost in the playoffs to Queen's Park. I want to say.
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
Did you ever feel like you were going to go up with him?
Well, for me personally, obviously, I think under Ian Murray was absolutely the best I've ever seen Airdrie, because before that it just felt like we were going absolutely nowhere. But he came in and he got his, I think it was twice in a row he got his finish in second place. Obviously he had it during the COVID season, but there were no playoffs. And yeah, the Queen's Park, that was the time that I think everyone at Airdrie felt like, we were going to do it. We drew the first leg at Firhill. It was that Queen's Park were playing at the time, and then obviously coming back home against Queen's Park, they hadn't beaten us all season. It felt like that was going to be it. But unfortunately, I do think, looking back on it now, I think maybe the way we set up, we were just a bit too cautious. We didn't really play the football we'd been playing all season. But on the whole, Ian Murray was a fantastic manager for us, and he had us playing some excellent football. And I think if it wasn't for him, we probably still wouldn't be in the Championship at this point. But looking at it now, obviously we've got no regrets about what happened, because Rhys McCabe's come in and done an equally, or probably more so, impressive job getting us up at the first time of asking. So I think, I'll always be grateful for what Ian Murray did. He was a fantastic manager for us. He gave us some of the most special matches I've ever seen. And yeah, so Rhys McCabe's come in, he's continued that. He's got us up to the next level. And I think Ian Murray will not be out of a job long, because I think he's done very well in his last 2 jobs.
Yeah, it's like, I do agree with that. It's like with the sacking, it came at a really weird time, with it being the first league game of the season. But then, of course, Bowerman came out saying, well, you look at it since about Christmas time, and then the new season has actually been 8 games if we include preseason and the League Cup, and you're sort of like, okay, then fair enough. But it was a weird one, and it's like one of those where it's like it's like there is a question right now. It's like, could Ian Murray have done better? Would we be doing better if we had kept Ian Murray? There's reason to suggest not, and there's obviously reason to suggest there is. I think like the real main issue right now is injuries. Mentioned in the Rovers podcast, we have a squad of basically 22 players, which when you've got like 4 first team starting level players out is not ideal. Really not ideal. It's like most other teams, I think it's like I think Aki's recently made it 29 players in their squad, and I think most other teams just about every other team in the Championship has closer to 30 players than 20 players, at least 25 players. So that's really where we're lacking at this point in time.
That's me back in. Sorry, I cut out. With you saying about would you have more points with Murray here from the start or not? Obviously, you 2 were at the opening game of the season, correct?
Yeah.
Do you think? Do you think that was a game, or I watched your highlights back, and I don't think it was a game that you look at and think, right, we've started off poorly, because you didn't do exactly the worst in the Betfred Cup. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you've had any unbelievably shockingly bad results that I can remember. You've lost to County, but the Premier League team I think should always beat, or the top seed should always go through. I felt like that's just the way I always look at it. But do you think the opening game was anything that was alarming for yourself? Like, and obviously, Arran, how do you think? Like, did you see that? Like, do you think there was that worrying signs there for Murray at all? Or because I spoke to a few Raith boys at the Scotland trip, and they said that they called him in for a meeting, and he thought it was to ask about, do you need more for a budget for the upcoming season rather than you're getting your marching orders. But obviously, it was his marching orders.
No, there wasn't any meeting. It was done over the phone. It was done over the phone. But the thing is, the board had been saying to Murray beforehand about how they were concerned about performances, because I think someone had made a league table, and it was basically, it's like from after we beat Dundee United up at Tannadice just before Christmas, and I think we were like 4th or 5th in that league table. It was very close between Dundee United and Airdrie, actually, and once again Partick Thistle being third, because of course it's Partick Thistle. They just spent that entire season in 3rd place no matter what. So it's like, obviously there was a case of concern, and they would have said, look, we're going to give you the start of the season to turn things around. From the games that I was actually at, the performances were not great. It's like the Aki's game in the League Cup, that was a 0-0. It was just a complete nothingness of a game. And then the Airdrie away one, again, it was just a complete nothingness. I didn't feel like Airdrie were going to score, but I really didn't feel like Rovers were going to score either. It's like when the Airdrie goal, I think we can. Are we allowed to admit it was maybe a bit lucky because it was like it looked like Kevin was going to get it, but then there was like a nick of deflection or something, and that's what got it in. Obviously, Aaron, we've got bias here.
Yeah, I'm
but
biased.
I'm behind the goal. It's like from what I saw, it looked like it was a deflection, and once again, that's just Raith's luck this season. So it's like the timing of it was what was the real shock, and that's what it was for us. And then it was like the day after, it was a Monday night. I had the big interview with Bowerman saying about how, it's like the performances and style of play and whatnot just weren't up to standards. And basically everyone just like listened to that and then they fought back, and it's like, wow. It's like, listen to the points. And it was like, okay, can see what they're getting at. And to be fair, the board, they have a lot of credit in the bank just for the work they've done off the pitch, especially because it's like we've seen crowds come back up. There's been a lot of reworking of sponsorship, reworking of the catering deal, and it's actually we're actually meant to be seeing a profit from the financial accounts, which I don't think has happened in my lifetime, and I'm 24. We are not a club that makes a profit. So to see all that, and then it's like the work that's been done behind the scenes is excellent. So, but there is starting to be frustration because, of course, we're football fans. We don't really care about finances, do we? We care about what's happening on the park.
Yeah, that is the best way to put it, pretty much. Moving on to more of Saturday's results. Obviously, we'll come back to the Raith chat once we get talking about next week's fixtures, etc. Arran, I'm guessing you're at the famous Excelsior. Suffered a 2-0 defeat to Falkirk. What's your views in the game? Obviously, they did score 2 in the 72nd and the 79th minute, so left it a bit late. But what was your take on the game? Your views on it?
Yeah, no, I was actually doing the co-commentary for Diamonds TV, and it was just a terrible game from us, to be honest. If you look at it, obviously, I don't know if you guys will have seen it or even seen the highlights, but the fact that it was still 0-0 on the 70th minute was a robbery for us, because Falkirk, from the start of the game, they just controlled most of possession. I think they had the woodwork 4 times before they ended up scoring, and to give them credit, it was a fantastic goal from Dylan Tate that put them 1-0 up. And especially in that second half, we really just didn't get going. There wasn't enough of that kind of trademark football that we have been playing under McCabe. I don't know whether that's down to we've got, three of the back 4 were all signed this season, a couple of them in the past few weeks. But it's just not, it didn't click at all. And Falkirk are a side who obviously they'd won all 4 of their league games up until then. That's 5 from 5 now. That they've kept pretty much all their team from last year, and I think because of that, they've kind of kept the momentum that they won the league with. So they've come up that they were by far the better team. They deserved the win, which is hard for me to say because in my time as an Airdrie fan, we have beat them more or less every time we've played them. But at the same time, we've got, I think, 14 new signings. I'm still expecting us to turn this round. I think within the next few weeks, hopefully it'll start to click again. We'll see more of that good football. And I think the opposite will probably be true for Falkirk, because I do think at some point, all it'll take is a kind of unlucky 1-0 loss in the league, and maybe they'll start to lose a bit of that momentum and that confidence. But you've got to give them credit where credit's due, because on Saturday they deserved the 3 points, and unfortunately we just really weren't good enough.
No, that's fair enough. As you were saying about the new signings, you have obviously were touched on there. You beat Raith in the opening game of the season. That's the only win you have had since, obviously, in the first 5. Do you think it is a McCabe issue, or do you think it's, like you said, 14 new signings? half the back line or 3 or 4 of the back line are new signings? Do you think it is just a gelling process that she's currently the problem, or?
Well, I think, look, if you look at how well McCabe's done, I don't think I'll ever really see it as a fully a McCabe problem, because last season he took a team who we probably had one of the lowest budgets. I think that's fair to say. We didn't actually get many new signings, but he managed to get us in the playoffs, which not many of us were expecting. Even this season, the start of the season, I thought, I was really optimistic. We won 3 of the 4 League Cup games. The only one we lost was at Tawdry against Aberdeen, who are absolutely flying at the minute. And then obviously, as you said, we did beat Raith in the opening day, and I think everyone's thinking, this is brilliant. We're going to be in the playoffs again. We might be able to push for the league title. But in football, there's always reality checks. We had times last season where I think we lost 3 or 4 in the bounce. It's happened again now. But I still think there's enough there. There's a lot of talent in the squad, and I've got full faith in McKay. But I think give it a few weeks. Once we kind of just get back to the basics and we start playing our style of football again, I think that's when we'll see the results start to turn around. Because in some of the games we've been losing recently, even if you look at that draw to Hamilton, it's games where we were definitely the better side, just unable to really finish the chances. So, yeah, to answer your question, I don't think it's a McKay problem. I think the new signings, we've got a very young squad as well. I think the average age is 22 or something. So it's a very young team, a lot of new players. I think it will take them time. And yeah, I'm still fairly optimistic about the season ahead. I think if we can turn it around soon, hopefully we can have a similar season to last season, and maybe even, get to the next round of the playoffs, or some sort of progression on last year.
See, it sounds like we're in like very similar boats where it's just like the entry issue is signing 14 players, and it's a case of waiting on them to click, and then the Raith issue is half our team is injured, and we're not able to play players in position, so it's not clicking for us. And because of the, quite frankly, really good seasons that we both had last season, where it's like, I mean, I saw, it's like with the way Edry had been playing the previous 2 seasons, I was fully on board with the idea of Edry maybe not being in the playoffs, but like in and around that sort of bit, like closer to the promotion playoffs and the relegation playoffs. Mm-hmm. And then of course with us being in a title fight, and now it's like the start of the season where it's just like we've both got 1 win each after the opening 5 games. It's like neither of us would have been expecting this to be how we started the season, eh?
No, not. I was second, third, and fourth for last season here.
Yeah, second, third, and fourth.
And we've all got 1 win out of 5, so the only way is up, I guess. So, Aaron, one thing I wanted to ask you is you touched on obviously losing at Pittodrie. Ben Williamson scored 3 that night, and he was genuinely on mad form. Like, I'm pretty sure he scored in every game, or like in the Betfred. What's generally happened to him? Because I mind being my little brother, like his track record at his previous team is like he's a goal scorer, and he was a goal scorer until the league started. That literally scored in every game, I think, in the Betfred. And like, what's is he like what's happened sort of thing?
No, I totally get where you're coming from. He came in on the opening game against East Kilbride. He scored a hat-trick in the first half. Obviously, that is against, a non-league team, but still. And then, as you said, he did go on. He scored a goal in the next 3. He scored the goal to put us 1-0 up at Pittodrie. And yeah, we all, I think we thought we had, I don't even know, the best striker in the history of football. But, he has been unlucky. Now, that's not an excuse. He's hit the woodwork a few times. He had a goal chopped off against Queen's Park, which was the wrong decision. It was onside. But I think part of that is down to maybe the team around him's not been clicking as much. In the League Cup group stages, it felt like we were, giving the strikers at least 4 or 5 chances, good chances to score. And the past few weeks, it's not quite been like that. We're playing against some good sides who defend well, and he's just not quite getting as many chances. The ones he is getting, he's, as I said, he's hitting the post, or it's a great save from the keeper. It's ruled offside. I just think it's not been his time the past few weeks. But what I think, if you see him last season, his old club, I think he scored something like 17 goals in the space of a few months, and then he went a few months scoring, I think, one or two altogether. So it seems that that's probably the sort of player he is. He'll go in spells. He's still pretty young. I think he's only about 22. But
Yeah.
I fully expect within the next few weeks, if he grabs one, it just feels like he gets that confidence and he gets his bounce. And I think he will score a few. I definitely think we won't be having this same conversation, probably come Christmas time. So yeah, I get where you're coming from there. Even for us, it's kind of a bit of, Ben Wilson scored everything that came his way in the first few games. It's not quite happening now. But I do think, even if it's just a penalty or a tap in or something that gets him going, I do expect him to kick on.
Yeah, I do feel like that's how a lot of Scottish Championship players are. Like especially as the official fan, we've got Dowd, we had Dowd, sorry, who flying for Arbroath when he gets going, he got going. He just never got going to us, and now you see him doing well for Ayr. Like it's just, and I think a lot of players are just confidence players. Like when, and like even like you're touching on Falkirk, when something doesn't go their way, or like for Wilson, it's not going his way yet. But once it does, it will all fall and it will happen like fully, and that's what a lot of players are at this level. And he probably will be the same boat, I think, because obviously, like you said, he's got a good record. He's a goal scorer. Do you know what I mean? It's not like he isn't, and he's quite young. Moving on to the other action. I was at Somerset to watch us through one each with Scott Brown's United. I need to. I'll go through my opinion on the game. Is there anything you two would like to say about your opinions, looking at it from your perspective, or should I just?
I reckon you go for it if you were at the game.
Yeah, I was obviously at the game there. I feel like we played well enough to get a point. I feel like if we'd have lost that, I'd be sitting here quite scunnered that we'd lost. The first half was a few chances for each team. I think Miles Roberts done well to keep us in it at 0-0. The penalty, I don't know if you have seen it. For me, it's never a penalty. It's hit off him. It's hit off the ground, hit off your head, and like his his arms in his body. There's not much he can really do. And then Miles Roberts, ones that I'll probably talk about him so much this season coming, because I think he's generally going to go down as one of the best goalkeepers I've ever seen us have. And I'm not just saying that lightly, but he saved the first penalty and then they retake it. And when you watch it back, there's still nothing encroachment wise, or Miles Roberts is not off his goal line for the retake. And then the Roberts went the right way, but unfortunately Dowd smashed it high into the net instead of the first one. It went low for the corner. But apart from that, I don't think there was much that they created. I feel like the second half, the first half we started a 3-5-2, which Doolan has never done before. I've never seen him move away from his fullback, and he went to a 3. It worked to try and nullify us, and because they lost 3-2 to Alloa the week before, thankfully I was in Portugal for the Scotland game. I didn't see it, but the bit that I did see on Jag's Zone in the final 20, it was genuine car crash at the back. So the way Ayr have been flying this season, Dowds, Oakley, 2 big men up front, going a 3 was the right call. Dropping Chalmers and Fitzpatrick, who this season haven't got going, they'd probably be the first people to admit themselves, given the levels that we know they can get at in this league. They've been miles off it. Everybody's kind of been really miles off it, so the change of shape suited us. The second half, when we were chasing the equaliser, Doolan made 2 changes and bringing on Fitzy and Chalmers. changing to a 4 at the back, and I feel that we were well deserved of a point. Maybe unlucky not to win it, but then I think if either team had won it, you'd have said that we've kind of snatched that there. Like, nobody really deserved to walk away with 3 points. Draw a fair result. But I'm just a bit annoyed at the penalty, because for me it's not a penalty or a retake. But given I'd done Scott Brown's at United, I think that's going to be a case of they'll get the wee 50-50, the fouls that you're like, that you just don't like. There'll just be stuff that they'll just get, the breaks and stuff, like corners, throw-ins, the wee niggles when the goalkeeper kicks it long. Oakley and Macbeth are going for a tussle with each other, and 9 times out of 10, I think this season at Somerset it's going to be an air foul, when probably play on or a defending foul is the right call. Harry Milne scored for us in the 75th minute from a ball into the box. He's unbelievable. That's the best way to say it. Like, he scored the opening goal 2 weeks ago against Queen's Park from a corner, and scored another one from a corner, equalised for us. I think if we don't win the league this year, he's 100% off ski. Just the same way we've had that with a lot of players in the past few years, that if we don't go up, he'll be going. And I think to have him currently after, I think this is his 2.5 season now, is a miracle, just given how good he is, and he doesn't look like he's going to drop off at any point. We have, so far this season, obviously, like we said, all 3 of us have won 1 game out of 5, which was at Queen's Park at home, 3-0 2 weeks ago. Apart from that, we drew with Morton in the opening game of the season, 0-0. And I feel like anytime you play at Morton, it's always they try and get a point first and foremost, and then if they get a win, it's a bonus, more than they'll go and start on the front foot and try and win the game. They've played 5, Greenock Morton have. They've won 0, drew 3, lost 2, scored 3 goals, conceded 5. Kind of sums that, for me, just says they'll play for the draw first and foremost, and then anything else, 3 points is a bonus. But then again, we need to be better at breaking teams down like that at home, especially. And then we had back-to-back Raith and Falkirk away, where we both had 10. We went down to 10 men in both of those games and lost both of them by 1 goal. And I generally think if we had 11v11, we wouldn't have lost both of those games. Conceded a penalty. Raith, we got beat off Falkirk 2-1. Like we were saying about the momentum, I think that bubble will burst. And you know what happens with Falkirk when it rains? It rains, it pours, and I think that will eventually happen. And then obviously we beat Queen's Park last time at home, and then a good point away to Somerset, especially with the way they've been doing this season. You'd have took a point before the game, you take a point now, especially the way we played. Decent basis to build on, especially after a poor start.
Yeah, taking off a point off of that air side is probably like the best you could ask for right now, because they're just relentless. They're really. I've probably mentioned this before, but I believe they've had the best transfer window in Scotland this season. Just when it comes to like where they were at last season compared to this season, you know, as the squad changes, it's night and day. You know, it's like Anton Dowds, like you were saying, he seems to have found himself, and he's finding himself in games other than against Raith, because I swear to God, he scores against us all the time. It's like no matter how bad of a run he is on, it's like if he just sees Raith Rovers up next, it's like you can just guarantee a goal. It's ridiculous, but it's like that. So yeah, it's like they've drawn their last 2 league games, I think.
Yeah, 1 each to Pars at East End, and then with us.
Yeah, and it's like they were 2-0 down to us at halftime, and so it's like that could have been a defeat. Probably should have been a defeat if we didn't shit the bed. Quite frankly, it was like watching back those highlights, man. It was just bad. It was genuinely conceding the same goal in the space of 45 seconds. But so maybe this is where Air start to wobble a bit, and we'll see what the truly made of. Same with like if someone does manage to get a result against Falkirk, it's like how quickly can they bounce back? Because that's what it is. Because it's like last season when it's like someone would get an occasional result against Dundee United, but Dundee United were just relentless, just absolutely relentless. It's just like if they scored a goal in the first half, it was over. It was just over for you because they were just gonna fly away. It's like if they take the lead early, you're losing by 4 goals. Easy as that. But it's like if you can if you're able to keep it tight, then you can nick a result here and there. And Raith managed to do that 3 times. We got 2 wins and a draw against them. And Raith last season, we just weren't able to blow teams away. That's what our downfall was. It's like even games where we went 2-0 up, we would end up drawing or even losing, like our both last season. So that's what Falkirk and Ayr need to show if they want to win this title. They need to show that they are relentless. They need to show that any team getting a result against them is just a blip, and that not something where it's like any kind of collapse can happen.
Yeah, I agree with that with Ayr. Like obviously, I think drawing it East End for them would have been quite a sore one to take. I think because obviously they were flying. They would have wanted to keep the winning streak going. Pars hadn't even had a point before last week or won a game.
They hadn't had a goal. They hadn't had a goal before that.
And would you look at that? 2 goals and 3 points comes soon after. No, I'm joking. The thing with Ayr that some of the fans I spoke to in Portugal, they said, and I wish we had an Ayr fan to like kind of confirm this, and is that they said that the way they press and the high press for Dowd and Oakley to last the whole season, or like they can't last 90 minutes, and it's not even the end of September yet. That's the way I kind of took from it, is that I think at one point or not, Oakley is going to get injured. He's got a track record of missing, say, a quarter or like 6-7 games at once, and then it's just like you're saying, how do Ayr react when Oakley or Dowd get injured, because they're so heavy on this 2 up front. They both play off each other. Take one of them away, it changes it completely, because it's 2 big men they've got up there that pin you back 5-10 yards.
One of them went off. One of them went off injured. I can't remember if it was Oakley or one of Oakley or Dowds went off injured.
Dowds went off injured, but then that was in the second half, and for me, that the second half we dominated it. So if that's a sign of things to come, because I think no matter what, Oakley will get injured at a point of the season, and he'll do a Morton type of, like he'll be doing so well, and then once he gets injured, they'll fall off a cliff. The same with Morton were thereabouts for playoffs at one point last season, weren't they? Then Oakley got injured towards the end, and then that's when Arran swooped in at the end and beat them to the playoffs. And I generally think if Dowd is a long-term injury, I'd actually forgot about that until you mentioned that, thankfully. If Dowd is a long-term injury, or if Oakley, or when he does get injured, how do they kick on? Because especially two draws in a row now. But then 3-2 win against you is quite big for them, I felt.
Dowds will come back like right before we play Ayr again, and he'll just find a way to score a hat-trick because he just does that. We're cursed with him at this point.
That is it. The other game in the league was at Hampden, with Queen's Park beating Morton 1-0 with a Don Thomas goal just before half time. Do you have anything to touch on that result? Obviously, neither of us were obviously not there or anything, but that is an Airdrie and Raith fan's perspective on that game.
Imagine not having a win after 5 games in a season. How embarrassing must that be? At least I can take solace in that. And then I have to be reminded of the fact that we are below them.
Not for long. Morton will not rise to the table, I don't think, anytime soon.
No, I think Morton had like a really, it's like, as I was saying about Ayr having probably one of the best, either the best or one of the best transfer windows in Scotland. I think Morton have had one of the worst. It's like, as you were saying, it's like when George Oakley was injured, they did seem to just drop like a stone. And it's like they were only something like 3 or 4 points above Inverness by the end of last season. And they obviously lost him permanently. And who have they got to replace him? Jets. It's not happening. It's like, there's a reason why I put them ninth in my preseason predictions, and it was only because it's just like I was just like they're not looking good at all this season, and it's like they struggled against Callum Beef, and it's like that is a big warning sign.
Yeah, I think the main thing that you touched on there was about the Jet being the marquee sort of big number 9 to lead the line for them this season. Every team seems to have a goal scorer or goal scorers apart from them. Like that, even when we played them on opening day of the season, Jet, like, good touch in that, but he generally looks just a stone and a bit overweight. Like he just does not look like compared to all the other teams, just a proper foot. Like he just looks so far off it. They've scored 3 goals this season and 5, which is, I guess, not the worst going, but even then, like the signings that you're saying, Niall McGinn, 37 or something now, just don't understand that.
They re-signed Kirk Broadfoot.
Yeah,
that alone, it should be enough to get you relegated.
Wild, man. Like he's what, I don't even know.
He's
What's
40. I swear he's
40.
like 40 years old, and it's like he
40,
was before this. He was playing down in like the juniors or something.
Yeah.
And it's like people were saying his legs were gone then, and even in the lower league with Broomhill. And it's like, first of all, why did they bring him back up to this level? Secondly, why have they extended him if people were complaining about this last season, saying his legs were gone? It's like, I genuinely question what the recruitment plan is at Greenock Morton. Because it's like, I think Dougie Emery's in the wrong sport. It's like, as you were saying, Jet is stolen half overweight or whatever. It's just like, this is football, this is association football, not rugby football or gridiron football. You know, it's like Emery's just decided I just need a team of big beefy men.
Yeah, that's literally just the long ball. We've all beat the capital and know how our teams can get dragged into a slugfest there, and I think it's just the way they try and build, and they've not even been half too close to replacing their main number 9. And I think if you do that, then, or if you don't do that, you're in big trouble, which I think they will be. I can't, like, even I'm looking at the squad now, I don't think there's anybody that's as bad as that. Like obviously they've got, like, even that they re-signed Ali Crawford, and all the fans are raging about that, which is never a good thing. Niall McGinn, that we touched on, Jet as well. To Owen Moffat, decent player, but then like through the rest of it, it's just flatters to any standout players that you're like, he'll dig them at a hole. Have you got anything to touch on either of those two teams now?
Well, I don't think either of them are great, to be honest. Obviously, Queen's Park did beat us, but I'd say that was more an off game from us than it was them being great. But the stuff you're saying about Morton, I just totally agree with. Even last season, they had that, what was it? It was like a 14 or 15 game unbeaten streak. But before and after that, they were abysmal. And I really did think they would struggle to stay in the division. Because, as you said, we've all been to Capital and it's never good football. You know, a lot of the time it's 0-0s or it's a 1-0 set piece goal. And I just don't think at this level, when everyone around you's building, you know, a lot of teams are playing more progressive football now than maybe 10 years ago in the Scottish lower leagues. I just think Morton are really getting left behind. As you said, their transfer window's not been great at all. They've lost a few decent players, and they have either not replaced them, or they've kept on Kirk Broadfoot, for example. That they've signed some players who maybe their fitness isn't quite up to the level, I just think the fact that they are sitting there, the only team without a win, I think, there's nothing unlucky about that. I think it's down to the football they're playing. And I do think at some point this season, the pressure will really start to mount on Emery, because I think he got away with a bit of luck last season. The fact they had such a long spell of winning and drawing games. And I don't see that happening this season. So I would not be surprised if we were sitting down again in 3 or 4 months discussing the fact that Morton are in a lot of trouble and they might be sitting bottom of the table. Because for me, I think they do look like probably the worst team in the division so far.
Yeah, it's like you were saying about the style of football, and it's like Aidan, who's a Morton fan here, he was saying about how his comment about the Calder Beef game. He was saying about how Morton have a reputation for hatchet men, which was undeserved. But then I clapped back at him and just saying, lads, you got 108 yellow cards last season, and it's like. Granted, they haven't started off at that rate yet, but it's like with the way Dougie Imrie plays, it's like I will not be surprised if they reach triple figures again for bookings. It's somehow only one like straight red card or whatever, or one red card, I think transfer market was saying for them, and it's just sort of like, how on earth have they done that? Like, that's genuinely impressive.
Let's see the thing with a lot of Morton's fouls, right? And it's like it's like the tactical fouls. They're like
it's
so
like persistent.
big.
It's persistent like, ones.
Like the amount of times last season at Capel or even at Hull, or they're doing it in the opening game. It's like you want your player to take on the Morton player, but as soon as you beat him, you're going to get fouled or he's going to get tripped or there's going to be some sort of. Something's going to happen here. It's the persistent tactical fouls, especially at Capel, man. I hate going there so much. Like, oh, man, it's such a slugfest, that game. Like, especially against us, man. The long throws obviously isn't there anymore, but my God, man.
Oh, God, it was one of the games last season where we beat them thanks to penalty. Now, it's like you could argue it was a bit soft, but it was just one of those, like, little persistent fouls that they had done, but they just managed to do it in the box. And it's like the Morton fan program for the next preview for the next time they came to Starks Park were just so bitter about it, like calling us cheats and whatnot. And it's just like, you have no right to talk about this. Look at your disciplinary record.
And on to the final game, which was Livingston, who are also still unbeaten with quite a big 3-0 win over Hamilton. Scott Pittman scored in the 56th minute, and then an ex-Morton player, along with Oakley, they didn't replace him with Robbie Muirhead scoring in the 81st and the 87th. Thistle, we've not played either of them, what are your thoughts on these two teams? And then I'll say mine after. Starting with you, Callum, and then Arran.
I was going to say I've watched us play both of these teams, and I can tell you Accies are in serious trouble if they're losing to Livingston 3-0 like that. Because the game, honestly, yeah, it's like when we played Livingston were not great. It's like, again, it was one of those games where it's like, it was one where we actually looked more likely to score a goal than them, which isn't something that we could say a lot this season. But it's like they just got a lucky goal. It was just a mistake by Kevin that led to them getting the win. It was genuinely just a pot shot from 25 yards out that just happened to bounce in. But it's like outside of that, they really didn't create anything. And I'd seen with their opening day game against Dunfermline where they won 2-0, it's like, had Dunfermline fans saying that Livingston, they didn't create much, but they were just clinical. So maybe the same thing has happened here, but it's like that spells a lot of trouble for Accies, because when we played them in the League Cup, it's like they were not good. They were not good then. They've got 5 points, but it's like there's a lot of questions about the way the club is being run at the moment, and it's like probably the biggest shock is the fact it's like they've got Ollie Shaw and Nikolai Todorov. Now it's like that's a pretty good strike partnership that you've got there. It's like Todorov is a good championship striker. I was devastated that he went to Aki's because it meant that we'd have to play him 4 times.
Yeah,
He's not scored. Todorov hasn't scored yet. Arran Reid has got more goals than Todorov at this somehow. And it was just like, I had no idea he was even going to play a game this season if the draft was anything to go by. But it's just weird. It's really it's such a weird club at the moment. I'd seen they put out a statement saying about how they'd reduced the ticket prices, and I think it's like they were going down from £26, which is like for championship level is extortionate. You know, I think it's just about everyone else in the league is about 20 quid. I think some teams are maybe, I think Raith are 22. Some teams maybe a little bit cheaper, but you know, averages are at about 20, but then they're charging 26 quid for a team that's just come up from League One. And it's like, right, we're reducing the ticket prices. 25. 25. And then they made it a flat fee for under 18s at 15 quid. So it means that beforehand, an adult and an under 16 was 34. It's now 40.
It's wild.
What is going on? It's like their accounts are late as well. Last I'd seen, their accounts were due by like a couple of months as well. They had supposedly not paid their players for July. It's like they were either late with payment. I think they were late with payments. They claimed banking issues. It's just that club is in a bit of a mess right now, and it's like I know we're going to be looking forward to the fixtures in a minute, but it's like Raith play them next, and honestly, it's like if we don't get a result against Aki's, then I am seriously going to be concerned.
Yeah. Anything to add, Arran?
Well, obviously, I've seen us play Hamilton, not Livingston yet, and we did, as I said earlier. I think we drew the game, but yeah, they really were not great at all. Hamilton. I've not seen Levy yet, but looking at the results, and just the fact they've still got a very experienced squad. They've got some good players in there. I think they'll be pretty consistent with how their results and how their performances are. I think they've got a decent manager. I think they're one of the sides who, you know, not many people will talk about yet because nothing flashy's happened, but they're kind of just quietly going about their business. As you touched on earlier, I think the fact that they're going to be, if they're going to be clinical, if they can keep that going all season, that will get them a lot of good results because a lot of sides in this division are not clinical, and that's often the issue. I know with us anyway, a lot of times we get loads of chances, we don't take them. If there's sides like Levy where, you know, you give them 2 or 3 chances, they score 1 or 2 goals, I think they'll get pretty decent results. And I think right now it looks like they're in a decent position to go on and probably make the playoffs, which will definitely be their minimum goal because you know, as much as they went on about the financial situation last year, they do have money, especially at this level. They've got players on a lot of probably decent wages. They've got experienced players, good players who did a job in the Premiership. So I expect them to be a tough team to beat. But judging by what you guys are saying, what a few others have, I don't think they're anything too special. So I don't think teams should go there, you know, fearing it. I don't think it'll be like, you know, we've had a few teams in the last few years where they're winning more or less every game, often the team from the Premiership. I don't think Levy will be like that. And I think this is probably around their kind of level as a club. So for Hamilton, I do agree. I would be worried if I was a Hamilton fan. As you touched on, they've signed Nikolai Todorov from us, who was our top scorer last season. Not only is the fact he's not scored a goal yet, I would be a bit concerned about that. But also the fact that they're not actually really playing him. It's been Ollie Shaw up front on his own quite often, which I think is just a bit strange to me, considering how good a player we know Todorov can be at this level. But for Hamilton, I think that they've got probably one of the weaker squads in the division from what I've seen, from what I've heard. I do think, along with Morton, who we talked about earlier, they're a side who could be a little bit worried about potentially not being able to stay in the division.
This championship is weird. It's like going into the season, I think it's like we were looking at it and just being like, this is going to be really competitive because there isn't a big dog, and it's like, oh, it's like, oh, these teams look good, this team looks good, this team looks good. No, this season has just become who is the least shit. That's what it's become. It's just a lot of draws.
Yeah, I think a draw on Accoutum is not going to be far away for the championship this season. That, especially with what I've seen so far with us away to Raith and us away to Falkirk, I think it's been very evenly. Not a lot of quality, just a big slugfest of a game, and it's because every team is so evenly matched. There isn't, like, you don't look at any squad and think, oh my god, they're going to run away with it, but you don't think of any squad and think, right, they're in deep trouble because they lack quality all over the areas of the pitch. Like, as much as we touched on Morton don't have a striker, they still can be solid at the back. They can still grind out the nils, nil ones on the side, and like we've just touched on Aki's, who will probably be at the bottom or with Morton, and probably for me Queen's Park. They've got Ollie Shaw, they've got Kevin O'Hara, who I think they two are really good players, especially if you had Todorov on the mix. That's 3 really good championship level strikers, I think, to have in that squad. I'm surprised they're not starting Todorov, because him and Shaw, I think, together would be really, really good. Though they did have Kevin O'Hara from last season, so I guess it's a waiting game for Todorov, because Ollie Shaw, I think, is a ridiculous signing for them. I would have took him in a heartbeat. So I just don't understand how he's went there. I don't know what I think it was the contract length. I think they've gave him a wild contract length compared to, I don't think we were up for offering him half as long. I'm sure it's like 4 years or something daft he signed there, and I think that would have been the swaying point.
It must be great for Martindale not having to complain about budgets now.
Oh yeah, he's got the last.
I can't get up to. I love the fact he was complaining about that last season when they were playing against us in the cup, and it's like our budget from like the previous 2 seasons has barely changed. Granted, it's because a lot of those players from like 2 years ago were on McGlynn wages, McGlynn nomics, where it's just a case of throw money and just throw money wildly. But it's like, yeah, it's like with the parachute payments that Livingston will have from coming down from the Premiership, it's like they do have an advantage when it comes to signing players, and also it's like they can offer these players longer contracts, which when you're a player, it's something that you do look at because it's more security for yourself and your family. So they do have that on their side. But yeah, it's a weird one with Livingston, because I think it's probably the first time in a while we've seen a team come down from the Premiership and they just don't look like they're league winners. Like, it's like with Dundee United coming down, it's like you just saw that it's like they're winning the league. With Hearts coming down, it's like they're winning the league. Dundee coming down, they're winning the league.
Kelly,
and it's Kelly as well. It's just like this is the first season in a long time where it looks like the team that is going to win the league is not going to be the one that has come straight down, which is great because it's been boring. It's like we all say it's like the championship is just a big free for all, but you know who's going to win the league because 9 times out of 10 it is a team that has got the Premiership players and whatnot. But this time it's not. It's like I was saying. I think most people were putting it as between Raith and Partick for having the 2 best squads. I mean, it's the most obvious choice because we were Raith were clearly the second best team. Partick were clearly the third best team. Both teams look improved on their squads from last season. So it's like, right, those 2 are going to be in the title challenge. Livingston look like they might be in one. Ayr might be in one. Falkirk coming straight up, unbeaten. And with John McGlynn and his they basically had a championship squad at this point before in League One last season. It's like they threw everything. It's like, this is it. We are getting out now. And they really went off and got that. And the confidence is showing as they've come along again. So Falkirk are well and truly in that. So it's like complete free-for-all. It's like the only teams people were probably throwing off at the beginning would have been Aki's, Morton, Dunfermline, Queen's Park. It was very much a case of, it's like Queen's Park are one where it's like I said in the Challenge Cup review, where it's like they're probably in like this middle ground of they're not going to worry about relegation, but they're not going to challenge for the promotion playoffs. It would be like that Raith season 2 seasons ago, where it's like after the Challenge Cup final, which we lost to Aki's coincidentally. It was a case of, it's like, cool, there's 2 months of the season left and we have nothing to play for because we were like 12 points off of the promotion playoffs, but like another 15 off of the relegation scrap with like Cove, Hamilton and Arbroath. It's just weird, and that's what Queen's Park season is going to go something similar to that, where it's like they'll do well in the cups, but it's like league-wise, just complete nothingness.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think they're just been a wee league of their own, so like they won't be too far off the playoffs either side, but they just won't be able to change that 5-6 game run that you need to, I think, to get yourself proper up there. I think Livy, I think they've kind of surprised me. I didn't think they'd be started off as well as they have. I'm looking at the fixtures now. They've had Pars at home, Queen's Park away, Morton at home, Aki's at home. Raith away's been the only one that you kind of look at and you're like, oh, and they won that 1-0. But like you said, I seen the goal and Dubrovsky, like that shot can get hit 100 times and 99 times Dubrovsky saves it.
That's what made it worse. It's like as someone who
last kick is late goals, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was like 89th minute or something like that. It was just awful because it's like I've got a lot of I play and goal a lot when it comes to playing sevens, and even I've done it at amateur level as well for a couple of games, and it's like I knew straight away where it was just a case of that's just one of those where again it's 1 in 100 where it looks like it's like he's obviously put his arm out to like push it away, but it's like it's maybe bobbled weird or whatever. It's like whether it's a spin on the ball or whatever, and it's like off his wrist, and even then 9 times out of 10 that will just bounce away. But it's just it hit the wrong part of it where it just bounces up and goes into the net. It was just awful to watch. But yeah, it's championship, man.
Oh no, literally, especially with Dubrovsky, man. Anytime I've seen him play against us, man, it's like Yashins and goal, man.
I know it's he is such a good. He is so good, but it's like the thing is, it's like that's probably the only goal that we've conceded this season where it's like, okay, that's on him. It's just how it's been.
So that was a roundup of the weekend just gone, their fixtures. We will touch on this upcoming, the 21st, Saturday, 21st of September's Scottish Championship fixtures. We'll start off with Livy. Livy are not playing. They were meant to be playing Falkirk. However, because Falkirk are in the Scottish League Cup quarterfinals against Celtic, they both have a free weekend. So that's Livy and Falkirk, which kind of gives everybody else a chance to maybe catch up on them a wee bit, maybe add a wee bit of pressure. I'll start with myself. I think we've got Dunfermline at home. Partick Thistle play Dunfermline at home. Queen's Park play Ayr United at home. Raith, Callum, yourself, you boys are at home to Hamilton Academical. I'll start from top to bottom. Thistle, we're at home to Dunfermline, and it has to be 3 points, no if, buts or maybes. We've started off poorly, but over the next 5 games, 4 of them are at Firhill, and generally need to turn Firhill into a fortress, especially with we've played the hardest 3 away, in my opinion. So this is now our turn to chain a few wins, and like we beat Queen's Park 3-0, Dunfermline needs to be another big win and clean sheet, in my opinion. especially with the run we've got coming up. We've got Aki's after that away, and then we've got a triple at home. So we need to chain some wins together. We've had a poor start, and I generally think if we don't start to chain a few wins together, people will start turning on Doolan. There was already a few Doolan outposts in the forum, which I was in Portugal for, so I swiftly muted the forum for 5 days, because I think wanting Doolan out after we'd just won the last league game 3-0 because we lost 3-1 at Alloa, like, so I found it baffling, but Thistle fans do love a cry. Moving on to the other game in Glasgow, will be Queen's Park at home to Ayr United. Like we touched on there about Ayr, the start of the programme, that's two draws in a row now. So at home, away at Queen's Park.
They're finally playing an away game. They've had so many. They've started off with what, like, trying to think. They played 6. Trying to think if they include the Challenge Cup. They've played 6 games, and I think 4 or 5 of them have been at home. So I think this is the start of a run where they have away games. They have to, like, leave Ayrshire. So we'll see how that goes, because it could just be a case like you're saying, it's like you lot Partick Thistle, you've got a run of you've got like a group of games at Firhill, and you want to turn that into a fortress, and it's like Ayr United have turned Somerset Park into a fortress, but can they repeat it away from home, not in front of a home crowd? That's what this is. And also it's the first game of the season that is played at Hampden proper, because Queen's Park have once again got a deal with the SFA to play at Hampden Park instead of Lesser Hampden. So, I mean, there's no more ticket lotteries for away fans to deal with. It's like the fact that a game between Queen's Park and Livingston was classed as a sellout. Imagine seeing that 5 years ago.
Yeah, I know, you're scratching your head like what's happening, man. I've been teleported to a different universe. But I'll quickly nip in before we move on to the next game. You've said about Ayr home games. Of the last 6, 5 of them have been at home. So it is time to leave. Time to leave Ayrshire, boys. Another game, and the other game this upcoming Saturday is in Kirkcaldy. Callum, you boys are at home to Hamilton Accies. Touched on them earlier on. What's your take it away? What are you thinking?
This is a second of the must-win games, because, I mean, we're bottom of the table after 5 games, which we obviously had no plans whatsoever to be anywhere near. But we have to, you can caveat that with the fact that our opening games have been Airdrie away, which, when you consider last season where we lost, I think we lost every game apart from a 0-0 draw. It was just a case of, it's just like, if we lose, and I'm not surprised. It's like Airdrie's a tough one. Partick Thistle at home, again, a game where it was a case of 2 of the teams that we were expecting to fight for the title going up against each other. Livingston at home, again, team that's just come down from the Premiership. And then we had Ayr away in the league, where, again, they're flying. We've had Ayr away in the cup. Again, they're flying. We were 2-0 down. We were 2-0 up, lost 3-2. But again, that Ayr side is absolutely flying. And then Dunfermline, which, it's a derby. It's a high pressure game. And I think the occasion got to some of the players. And so this is pretty much the one way. It's just sort of like, win this, and it calms everything down. Because it's like that. It's like when we got the fixtures, we were just like, oh God, that's a tricky start to the season. And now it's like, it's proven true to be a tricky start. So hopefully it's like, we've got to get a win. Same as you guys, where it's like a case of, it's like, this is a game where it's like, we should win. We just need it. Just desperately need it. Just to get belief in the squad.
I'm in the same boat as you. Is like no disrespect to either of these teams, but for me, I look at Queen's Park at home, Hamilton at home, Dunfermline at home, and Morton at home. As much as we've already drew Morton in his opening game and it was 0-0, fair enough. The only, as much as I'm quite annoyed about it, still, yeah, fair dues, right? It's opening game of the season. We didn't lose, clean sheet. But those four, like you, have got Accies, we've got Dunfermline, Morton and Queen's Park. I think them at home, if you want to try to win a league title, that has to be 3 points, or there has to be 3 wins out of 4 against them at minimum. Like that's the type of games that you have to take maximum, if not 10 points from, and then you build from there. Like, and obviously, like you boys, you haven't started the best. It's the manager's second game at home. Am I right in saying?
First game at home.
First game at home.
It was Ayr away and Dunfermline away.
Oh, so his first time in front of the Starks Park faithful, and Hamilton is a winnable game. And then it's the start of 2 back-to-back home games you have, which is Falkirk next. So
yeah, Falkirk next, and then after that it's Morton away and Queen's Park at home. So 3 of the next 4 games are at home, and we need to get results in at least 3 of them.
Yeah, I think, especially with Falkirk away, they'll be looking at you, especially because they don't play as like fair play. Like us and you could probably catch 3 points on them. And I'd like to. I think we will. I think we will beat Pars, and I think you will beat Accies. And then if you beat them in 2 weeks' time, then you're right behind them. They're right down their tail. Only 6 points, I think it'll be off them, 5 off them, and then now the gap's massive. So hopefully that for us, the pressure starts to mount on them, because I think once it does, it'll fall apart. On to next weekend's final game. Unfortunately, he's had to pop off the live chat to talk about his trip to Capel, but it is Arran's men away in Morton, who both 2 teams we did have a nice wee in-depth chat about, so it would have been nice to hear his views on it. However, like we've touched on earlier, Airdrie have only won 1 game this season, and that was the opening game of the season. Morton still haven't picked up 3 points yet, or a win yet. They've picked up 3 points with 3 draws, so give them a due.
It counts.
They all count. And I think we'll both agree that this is one that both of them will be looking at as a must win, or a win has like a game that they can win.
Oh, absolutely. I think the 3 of us are just in the boat of depression right now, and this seems to be the sunny shores of a victory that we all desire this weekend. So I think we can probably just echo what we've said for both of our games as to what Arran would probably say about this upcoming game, where it's just a case of hopefully this is a one where it's like a win here can help kickstart the season again. I think that's just what the case is for the 3 of us.
Yeah, especially with the starts we've all had and where we were last season. I think we're all would expect to have at least 3 more points on the board for all of us. I don't think many other teams would disagree if that us 3 would be saying that, because they would probably be looking at us 3 as the 3 teams that are right up there, or thereabouts, and we're the furthest out the 3 of us that have been on the podcast today, and that's only 5th. We've all got 1 each.
Yep. See, it's unfortunate that Partick's win wasn't against Airdrie, because then it would just be the trifecta, just all around.
I didn't even notice that, but actually would have been.
Yeah, because it's like Airdrie beat us, we beat Partick, and you have beaten Queen's Park. So if only we had a Queen's Park fan, and
yeah, with the jam.
Did Queen's Park beat Airdrie?
Queen's Park did beat Airdrie as well.
Oh my god, yes, we could have had that. That would have been perfect.
Queen's Park did in fact beat Airdrie as well. After the trip to Capello on Saturday, Airdrie have got Livingston away, then Dunfermline at home before coming to Firhill, and then Ayr at home. So like we both touched on for both of ourselves, I think Airdrie will be looking at Morton away as a win, and to kickstart a wee run against the teams who they'd like to think are going to be there or thereabouts with, i.e. us, Livy and Ayr United, especially with 2 of these 3 at home. Dunfermline at home as well will be one that they 100% will think this is 1-0 for the taking. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Salmon Pizzeria for the Championship Roundup. It's been a pleasure to be your host. My name's Manpreet. I was joined with Arran Hewitt, who sadly cannot join us to finish it off, and Callum Blythe. And that is all for today's episode. We will join you next week for another roundup, and hopefully on the back of 3 points for Partick Thistle, Raith and Airdrie. But
Maybe
the
not.
other two don't really matter. Yeah, and the other two don't. Maybe not Airdrie, to be fair, but that's kid on. Thank you for listening, guys, and take care, and we'll see you all again next week.